Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Black Real Estate Dialogue Podcast, the second episode of the Black Real Estate Dialogue Residency segment with Gabby Burks. Gabby, thanks for coming on again. Looking forward to talking about what's been going on.
Yeah, I'm excited to be back. Give you guys an update.
For sure. So in the first episode, it was really more of just an introduction to you, an introduction to why you decided to get into real estate. So today we're going to take it a step further, and I'm excited to kind of dive in deeper into how you started your journey, your investments, and things of that nature. But I know before all that, there's information you need to acquire. There are people you need to talk to. So I would just love to start off with talking about you finding a mentor and someone to help you out along the way.
Yeah, so this was critical, and I'm super blessed. I had known that my mentor, the main one I have, because I think I have about two or three, I knew he had like a property. So I reached out to him. I sent him a message on Facebook, and I said, "Hey, thinking about getting into real estate. Can you give me any pointers? I know you have a property." And he's like, "Oh, I have 7." And I'm like, "What?" So he was doing, a lot under the behind the scenes. And so I basically told him my vision and my goal. I said, I have about 10,000 cash. This is the area I want to be in. And he just kind of took me on. He said, "I'll go to properties with you. I'll walk the properties with you. Let me know where you're going. Send me pictures." And so he was literally holding my hand through probably a half a dozen or more property walks, giving me yeses and nos and pointers and things to look for. So super critical in the process. And I think that, of course, that probably won't be for everybody. Somebody will just say, "Yeah, I'll be your mentor." But I want to reference that, before I had already developed a relationship with him. So over the years, he had saw me in the community, giving back. He saw me, hosting things around St. Louis. I'm being really active. And so when I began to, come over to his space, which is real estate, he was super excited and knew that I would be, a rock star and committed. So I think it was easy for him to commit to me because I was so serious.
For sure. That's really cool. When you went on some of these walkthroughs, what were some of the things that he pointed out that you, perhaps as someone who is new, was not able to immediately see as you're checking out properties?
Man, almost everything. He gave me, we did a call one time, and he had so much information that I wrote everything down and typed it up, and I would use it as almost like a worksheet every time I walked a property. One of the things that we tried to stay away from was any roof problems and any electrical problems. Roofs can be, $7, $8, $10,000. Same with electrical. I think those are the really, really big things. Some of the other things that I wouldn't even have thought of would be taking my phone charger and plugging it into an outlet. I just would have never even thought to check all the outlets at the house. He told me to do that. He told me, when you go into the basement, to look up and look for any damage. If there's brown on a white, that means versus yellow. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, I would have bought the first melon, or lemon I saw. And so that was another one. Was any kind of water damage was a big one, because we're buying to hold, and we're buying really not really dilapidated, but we went to some really bad ones. So yeah, and he talked about his biggest thing for me was he gave me a goal of, you want something that you can manage, especially for your first one. So I remember one walkthrough was probably about 6 or 7 bedrooms. I mean, it was massive, and it was like $2,000. And he was like, the price is great, but this is too big of a project for your first one. And we just kept looking. So just bite-size real estate. And then he told me, what all are you looking to do? So he had some really good questions and helped me frame an expectation. So even though I got the property and I still felt like, man, this is a lot of work, I feel like he pushed me along the way a lot.
For sure. Did your strategy change from when you first started working with him to the end? Like what you wanted to do with the property? Or did you kind of always have, this is what I want to do from the outset?
Yeah, I thought I wanted to flip. I definitely thought I wanted to flip. And then I started talking to him and also just researching and learning about capital gain tax and things like that. And I'm like, ooh, okay, I'm not going to flip because the taxes when you flip a property. So all of his properties I believe are seller finance. So he buys a property for $3,000. He puts $5,000 to $10,000 into it. he puts it on Facebook for a $5,000 down payment and then monthly payments, and then it becomes theirs over 5 years. So he does
Oh, wow.
all his properties like that. So initially, when I was working with him, I thought I wanted to do that, but that doesn't allow you to refinance. So I'm kind of going back and forth between just like a buy and hold regular burst strategy versus seller finance.
Got it. Oh, that's really cool. I've heard of people doing that with mobile homes, but not with like traditional homes, like seller financing it back to the tenant. That's pretty
Yep.
cool. I'm sure he's making
Yeah,
a
70.
chunk of interest on that.
Right. Yep.
That's very cool. How many properties did you go through before you found the one?
I think maybe in total, maybe 10.
Wow.
So to me, that's not a lot. Is that a lot?
I don't know. I guess it's relative.
Yeah, it's relative, right? I
Yeah.
think 10. Yeah, some days I would go to 2 or 3 in a day.
Yeah.
But once I started looking at properties, the day I started to the day I found the one, it wasn't 2 weeks.
Got it. Got it.
So.
That makes sense. That makes sense. So talk to us about the one when you found the house that you're like, you know what? I think I got the right one for what I'm trying to do.
Yeah. I love this question. So when we talk about all the ones I saw, this was definitely the better one. There were 2 contenders. And this one outbeat the rest of them because the selling point to me was it's got a huge porch. It's got a swing on the porch. As I was looking at the property, and I went maybe twice, maybe 3 times, the neighbors came outside and said, they were elderly and they spoke to me and they told me about the neighborhood, just little things like that. The other property didn't have that. They were almost neck and neck, but just meeting the neighbors, seeing kids outside playing. It was a 2-bedroom, 2 baths. So there was an extra bath. The kitchen and the bathrooms needed less work than the other property. And those are the 2 areas that I like to focus on. Yeah, I think that's it. I think the porch, the neighbors, the price, this area, I got this house for 10,000. The average home in the area is between 25,000 and 95,000. So I bought it. I already have equity in it. My house is nowhere near, I bought it for 10 grand. The owner was motivated to sell. He was not from here. He had bought the house 9 months before, hated St. Louis, and wanted to move back to Las Vegas. So I capitalized on how quickly he wanted to move back. And yeah, that all of those things working. I knew I wasn't going to have to fight with him on anything. He wanted to sell it. So yeah.
That's amazing. So how were you working with an agent? Did you kind of source your own deals? How did you even find the house?
Yeah, I think I found it on Zillow. I used all the ones that we all use, Zillow. We all know them. I can't think of everything, but I'm pretty sure I used Zillow. And actually, before I looked at this house, there was another, I want to say realtor.com, but you had to have an agent. So realtor.com called me. I tried to set up a viewing for a different house, and they said, we're going to send an agent out to open the door for you. I said, okay. So I got to the property, and my agent walked up, and he was phenomenal. I was blown away at how detailed he was, almost like my mentor. It was almost no different. Walking the property with me, an agent telling me not to buy a property. He was like, no, walking the ceilings and so forth, or the roof. And he just went above and beyond. And so that's how I found him. I actually used him at a different property, and that didn't work. So I reached out to somebody in St. Louis who I knew was an agent for the property I have now. I said, can you show me this property? And she said, yeah. She got to the property. She didn't walk in with me. She barely greeted me. She didn't ask me any questions. She didn't ask anything. She just opened the door and went back to her car. And so I knew I was going to buy it. And I knew I didn't want to give her the commission. So I saw the property. I said, I'll think about it. I called the other guy and had him walk the property with me. He did the same thing, very thorough. He said, this is a great property. He walked the basement with me, walked the backyard, looked at drains. And he just was so thorough as an agent because he's an investor. So that's one thing I would definitely suggest. Find an agent who's also investor friendly or they're an investor themselves, because they'll have a different eye and a different care for it. And so I used him, and I still use him today. We're looking for our second property now.
Wow, wow. And this is like not even 2 months ago, right?
Yeah.
Maybe like 6 weeks ago or something. Oh, about 2 months. Okay. Wow, that's crazy. That's crazy. What was your closing process like? How did that go? As like a first time like investor just going through the closing process. What was it like for you?
Yeah. I had initially offered him 8,900. And I went to sleep that night and I couldn't sleep. So when I woke up, I was like, I'm going to lose this house because I'm trying to be like a guru. So I woke up the next morning and offered him asking price. I offered him his asking price, or present. I told JR, don't send him the 8.9. Let's give him 10. Actually, I gave him 10.5. I gave him 10,500. And then I wrote him a letter. I wrote the owner a letter. I told him who I was and what my goal was. I don't want to go back and forth with a bunch of different developers and things like that. This is who I am. This is who my husband is. And I closed within a few hours, as far as he accepted the offer in a few hours. And then we just did the regular paperwork. It's a little different with coronavirus. We did everything in the car. As we went through the closing process, I think one thing to call out is I had a couple of stipulations. I wanted the house totally empty. As we were walking it, he was still living there. So there was a bed and there was a TV and the attic was completely full. So one of the contingencies were, I want the attic completely cleaned out and I want the house empty. So he offered back not to clean out anything, but to give me $600 if I clean everything out. So I said no, so I sent it back. I still want to offer you 10.5, but I want the house cleaned out. He cleaned out the attic, and by the time we were doing closing paperwork and we did a final walkthrough, he was already gone to Las Vegas. So I did get stuck with, I got a new TV. It's a brand new flat screen TV, but the house was, yeah, he left the couch, he left dishes and paper. I mean, it was like you walk in the house and so we had to clean it out. That's hilarious. So if you guys are looking for a real estate and property and you walk through and you see people are still living there, or make sure that before you give any money that house is completely cleaned out. That's one thing. That's a learning that I have. I don't necessarily regret it, but that is a learning that I have.
Definitely. How long does your closing process take?
No more than a week and a half, maybe.
Oh, wow. That's really quick.
Yeah. Because it was all cash. So we didn't have to. Yep.
That's a good point.
No funds, and we transferred it.
Definitely. So from your closing experience, what are some things that you learned, some additional things that you would do differently, that you would advise other people who are just getting into investing to do during their first closing process?
Yeah, I would, I think my biggest learning is going to be around electric. So when I had my inspection, I would strongly recommend you obviously have the inspection. You have the inspector call you and tell you, give me the top 5 things that are wrong with this house. Because then you pay an inspector to find things that are wrong. And so he told me his top 5 things, and the top one was electric. Where I didn't budge at was that my uncles are electricians, my grandfather's an electrician, so I wasn't intimidated by it. But it has cost me thousands and thousands of dollars to this day to basically rewire the entire house. So every wall at this point probably has came down by now. I would suggest staying away from electrical problems. I got lucky because my uncles did it for free. But the material, I still paid them. They did it for free, if you will. But the materials, the time is money. They've been working on electric for about 6 weeks. Wow. I would say stay away from that. That's probably my biggest learning. The other thing that I would advise is to connect with depending on the type of town you're in, your alder person. As soon as I bought the house, I called the alder woman in over the area, and I introduced myself, told her where I bought the house, and told her what I needed. So I needed a dumpster because he left everything. And she gave me a dumpster for free for 5 days. And I told her I wanted 10 years tax-free. And so I have the property 10 years tax-free, which is great. So when I go to sell it, that'll be, you know, a selling piece. So just connect with your alderwoman or man and say, I just moved to this area. What are some things that you can give home buyers? I want to be on a committee, or I want, you know, kind of, you know, you want to give and take. I definitely suggest us connecting with our political, because their job is to bring people and families to their ward. And so, yeah, she was excited to help me.
Got it. You probably saw my eyebrows raised. Tell me more about how you were able, the tax-free situation. Can you break that down for us?
Oh, I just asked.
You just asked the older woman, hey, like, how did that conversation go?
I asked her what she needed, and she said, I need a lot of stuff. And I said, well, let me start with cleaning up the block. I said, there's a lot of teenagers walking up and down the block. Get me a dumpster over here. I'm going to clean out my property, but we're going to walk the block and clean it up. And so she said, okay, that's no problem. Call this number. And, you know, I did that. And I said, well, what can I do for you? You know, I wanted her to really commit to something so that she can see that I actually deliver versus, oh, I need everything. And so through that, I was able to do conference calls with the mayor, other alderwomen people. And when I reconnected with her, just to call her, ask her how she's doing, tell her about the process. I said, hey, you know, I was talking to a committee man, which I was. He came by my property too. And he was telling me about tax-free for, you know, new home buyers. And I told her you know, my husband's an independent artist, and just kind of telling her my story. And I asked for 10. I said, you know, I've heard that you can do 10 years tax-free, and that would go through the alderwoman. What's that process like? She's like, you just asked me. You just asked me and I give it to you. I said, okay, well, I'm asking. So, you know, 10 years tax-free it's pretty common in St. Louis. I mean, wow. That people know this information. You just have to, for me, it seems common. I've heard of it for years from being here, that you just ask the alderman. And so I just asked her. I will say that I'm in a different space because my best friend is an alderman. So some of these things I just know by being close to him. But yeah, I literally just open up my mouth and ask. And I want to get more things. I just got to go to Google or go to him and say, what else can I get?
Definitely.
But yeah.
That's really cool. So you have no property tax for the next 10 years.
Right.
That is clutch. That makes the deal a lot sweeter.
Yeah.
That's cool. That's cool. So you mentioned, you know, talking to the alderwoman, you've spoken to the mayor, and it's interesting. We had a guest a couple episodes ago who really emphasized getting to know your political leaders within the area you're investing in. Can you talk a bit more about that and why it's, I mean, because you shared for you how it's kind of been a give and take. You've given a little bit, they've given a little bit. So could you talk more about, you know, what your thoughts are and how people can replicate that in their city and wherever they're investing in? Yeah,
man, I definitely, any conference calls, any Zooms, get a part of it. And I was on a Zoom yesterday, and the theme was be relevant. So even if you're just looking, even if you're just starting and you know an area, get to know that alder person. You can pretty much find them on Google. If you're not super connected politically, you can also find them on Facebook. You can add them there. They'll usually have their meetings. Start to come to those meetings. When you get, everything is online now. So when you go online, you're in a call, make sure you introduce yourself. And I'm not a part of this ward, but I'm looking to buy. My name is so-and-so. Acknowledge other people that's in the ward or in your area. We're lucky to be Americans or live in America for pretty much this one reason. I think America pushes home ownership. It's a huge push like in no other country. And so you are doing your town a favor by becoming a homeowner. It's, you know, the taxes are better. You're more committed, the schools, you know, and so you want to really treat it like a relationship. They're not taller or bigger than you. You're really there to serve them and vice versa. They're there to serve you. Your older people are in office to serve you. So I'm saying that to say, don't be intimidated by join the calls, join the conferences, and then just ask the questions, ask the right questions. What can I do? This is what I have. Do you know of any programs? Do you know of any areas? I've gotten eons of things by asking the right question. And I feel like I don't ask enough. So I should tell you.
Definitely.
There's more out there.
So basically ask and you shall be given.
Yeah, all I can say is no.
Yeah. Hey, that's a great way to go through life. You know, like very few things in life you get. There's some things in life you get without asking, but the majority of things you have to at least ask, right? You have to at least, whatever it is, like you have to ask. I mean, you're gonna get a lot of no's in life, but a lot of times you just need that one yes.
Yep.
Like you got the yes for property taxes. That's a great yes to have. Um, so something else I want to talk to you about. As a new investor, a lot of people, whether they are from that particular city, whether they are investing long distance, a big sticking point and something that trips up a lot of people is, all right, I want to invest in this particular city. How in the world do I figure out what neighborhood, what block? How do I figure out those type of things, the indicators that I'm supposed to be looking at when I'm looking to make an informed decision? Can you talk about one, the neighborhood in St. Louis that you decided to invest in, and also why you decided to invest in that particular neighborhood?
Yeah, I'm in North City, and so it is definitely the hood. So I want to be around my people. I want to build up around my people, and it's going to be cheaper. So I live in South City, which is predominantly white. I live around $500,000 homes. I can't afford that. So a lot of the determining factor was just based off of price. I'm also not intimidated by the hood. I'm not intimidated by guns personally. I'm not intimidated by Black men, Black boys. I'm just not. And so it was easy for me to decide where to go because of that factor. I know other people that try to stay away from because you will have some liability and some things that you're going to be up against. St. Louis, is, as far as North City is concerned, it is I would say maybe in the next 7 to 10 years, you'll see a drastic change in the area because of certain development that's coming to St. Louis, or that's already here, it's starting to kind of like spread out to North City. One thing that I would have done differently, or I'm looking to do in our second property, is to research what's coming down the pipeline in the area. So for example, there's a university out here called Maryville, and there is a company that just closed on a huge plot of land. And the company, when it's done and up and built, they'll bring 1,000 jobs to that area.
Wow.
So now on my radar is that area because it's not here yet. A lot of people won't know about it. And so really just, I don't want to say watching the news because I don't do that. I want to be real. Listening to the radio, looking on Facebook, what's coming up, what universities are expanding, what businesses are closing. We know hospitals are a hot spot. These are all tips to help you decide what area to start in. But you really want to focus on what you can afford. And then once you figure out, you start looking at houses, go back several times. Don't just go once. Go back several times, knock on your neighbor's door. I asked the lady, I said, I'm thinking about buying this house. What can you tell me? And she gave me this whole spiel. I asked, his name is Randy across the street. I said, how long have you been here? He said, I've been here. He looked like he was 20. He said, I've been here for 50 years. I was like, black don't crack. But we started talking. We started talking, and he started telling me, they started telling me this street over here, they're going to shoot on this street. This street over here, you want to, these are, they gave me the law of the land. Yeah. And that's pretty much what I did. But don't be intimidated by the hood. Knock on people's doors. Introduce yourself. Say hi to people. A lot of times we come into areas and people are, especially in St. Louis, they don't speak. And every time you walk past my house, I'm like, hey, how you doing? If I'm outside gardening in the property we just got, and I shake their hand, and I've hired the teams and, brought them in to, do little work. So get to know the area before and during your process.
For sure. It's great. I think the fact that you have that awareness in just a couple months, barely just a couple months, I think is great. And I think it really speaks to the fact that, what I like to tell people a lot is you just need enough information to get to the finish line. You don't need to know everything, and you need to be comfortable. There's risk involved in everything, right? So I like to tell people a lot, you just need to know enough to get to the finish line. There are things you discovered afterwards, like, all right, well, the electric needed a little more work. You figured out a way to get it done. You've used your resources you had to get it done at a cost that worked for you. And then you're like, you know what, for the next one, I want to make sure I look at these aspects. I want to make sure I look at the area, what's coming down the pipeline. And you're already doing that. So you're already setting yourself for success. But the theme that I'm picking up from the last episode and from this one is that you took action. And I really just want to encourage people. You can't sit on the sideline forever. You have
Yep.
to just take the leap. You know, do as much as you can, learn the information, learn enough to where you can go forward, and then, you know, you'll just figure it out from there. And look at it now. You know, by the time, you know, next 12 months, it's going to be a different conversation. You know, it's going to be amazing. Very cool, very cool. Um, so we spoke about a little bit, maybe in the last episode, and also a bit off camera, previously, about working with kids in the community, and giving them an opportunity to help out, as you do things around the house, which I think is amazing. I think it's a good way to just expose kids to something else. You know, get them doing something different. So can you talk more about why you decided to do that and how that's been going?
Yeah, I've been working with the kids in St. Louis for on and off for I've been for 10 years, on and off maybe 5 years. I just called an elder at one of the biggest churches that we have here, and he dropped off 2 kids, and then the others I just found walking up and down the street. I wanted to do it because I know that if I get the kids walking up and down the street, they'll watch that house for me when I'm not there. I know that there's a buy-in when you put your hands to something. And so they come knock on the door now and say, "You need any help today?" You know, and so, which lets me know that they're looking for my car. They're looking to see who's there. And I know that, you know, if I'm not there, they're going to watch that house. I think the reason is first of all, I just love Black boys. I think that, you know, I just try and everything that I do to find a space or a way to love on Black boys, and having conversations with them, getting to know them. I told them, I said, "Who owns this house?" When, you know, we were at my property, and he was like, "I don't know." And I said, "I own this house. You know what that means?" And this is like a 16-year-old boy. I said, "How much you think I bought this for?" And just framing his mind around money, like 50,000 less. And he's like, 40,000. I'm like, less. 30,000. Oh, that ain't nothing. 10,000. I can do that. You know. And so,
Yeah.
just really trying to just build relationships and being authentic. But that's what I give, and I know in return I get them, you know, at $10 an hour to take out trash for me, and you know, I think we bought them lunch a few times, but I know I get it in return, them really having buy-in to me, my projects, and then that house. I guarantee you will never be broken into. It'll never be, you know, anything happen to it because they worked on it. You know, it's a part of their legacy now on that block. So it's really cool.
Definitely. And I love that. And, you know, something else I'm picking up is you just became an owner in that community, and you're already so embedded, you know, going to different meetings, with city officials and aldermen and things of that nature. And I think it's amazing that you were given Black boys an opportunity to work, an opportunity to, I mean, you probably can't even imagine the seeds that you are putting inside of them. Just showing them the different work that's going around, even if they're like taking out trash or just cleaning up, just the exposure they're able to get. You know, you never know what that seed could become in the future. So I think that's just amazing. And, you know, a lot of them probably see you as a mentor as well, I'm sure. You know, just someone who is not criminalizing them, someone who's not saying you shouldn't be doing this, you shouldn't be doing, someone who's just giving them an opportunity and loving them, and just being kind to them. And like you said, I'm pretty sure that house is going to be fine. You know, once you get somebody in there and everything's done, you're not going to have any worries. And you know, kids, I mean, you know, kids remember things. They remember things. They remember people who were there for them. They remember people who were not there for them. They remember who gave them opportunity. They remember who didn't give up on them. So, I mean, I think that's powerful. I think that's amazing. The fact that you're involving the youth in what you're doing.
Yep. Just walking up and down the street. You don't have to go find them. They there. It's their neighborhood. If you come move in their neighborhood, you need to get to know them. That's intrusive to me. So I just try to be polite. You want to make $10 an hour? What you doing right now? They're not doing anything. They just riding the bikes, listening to music. And they're 17, 18, you know. They're big boys. And they come work all day for pizza and $10 an hour. I have to stop after about 5 hours because I'm like, ooh, okay, you're burning through my money. But yeah, it's been fun.
Definitely. So earlier in the episode, you mentioned the property values of the values of the properties in the area. You mentioned, and also mentioned that you purchased it for $10,500. In your opinion, just given the comps and all those things, what do you think the after repair value might be for the house?
Man, I hope, I pray. Jeez. I mean, ugh. I'm scared to say a number because if it's not, I'm going to be so crushed. But I'm looking for at least 50.
Okay.
I mean, we're at a, and if you guys follow me on Instagram, you'll see a lot of before and afters. We're pretty much at this point doing a full rehab. Mm-hmm. It's already so beautiful. So it's got to come in at 50. It's got to put a lot of time into it. So that's our goal.
Definitely. What do you think your all-in costs are going to, well, I mean, I'm sure, I haven't done rehab before, but I've been told it's usually ends up being a bit more than you budget for. But what do you estimate you might end up spending on the rehab?
So we initially said 10, and we're going to trend at about 15.
Okay.
We may come on other. I'll be excited to kind of come back and tell you guys where we end, because we may come in under that, because my uncle is rehabbing a bathroom for free, and we estimated a $3,000 rehab on that. So,
that's a nice spread.
And I think we'll be at 50. Yeah.
That's a nice spread. So you'll be potentially all in 25, and then after repair value 50. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. You bought it with a lot of equity. Wow, that's very cool. It's very cool. So yeah, that's good. That's good. I think, it's been really good this episode just to learn more about the process behind it, how you closed on the property, and a bit of your community involvement and how you've leveraged that for the future. Free property tax, which I'm still amazed by.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I thought this was great. And in the next episode, I'm definitely looking forward to diving deeper into the next phase, of the rehab and how the rehab is going, the ins and outs of that, all the fun stuff. Very much. Huh?
There's so many things. I said I can't wait to share the rehab piece, because there's so many things that I hadn't, just being so green at this, I had no idea. I didn't know a bathroom rehab, was $5,000. I was like, $5,000, not with the material. I'm like, whew. So we've just been doing a lot of it ourselves, Sam. My husband is hanging drywall. Wow. I'll show on my Instagram pictures, and it's flawless. And then we only pay somebody to come in and mud it and tape. And so just finding those pieces that we can really do ourselves, instead of getting a new tub, buying a tub refinish kit for $15. Yeah. Just little stuff like that. If you're doing your research, you're on YouTube, cutting costs drastically. So I'm excited to kind of share those things, because that'll save you so much money if you have a plan to save money. That's the thing. Because if you don't, you will spend a lot.
I bet. I believe it. I believe it. Cool. Is there anything you'd like to leave with our listeners?
Just stay tuned. Like I said, a lot of what I'm sharing here, I'm sharing visually on Instagram at naturally__Gabs. I'm also doing free 15-minute calls. A lot of people through my stories are like, I don't know where to start. I feel overwhelmed. And so I'm like, just giving you any kind of direction. I'm asking for you to come with 3 questions and trying to give you whatever I know. And if I don't, then I'll, source you out to someone else. But just staying connected to your goals. If real estate investing is something you really want, I promise you can get there. It's not as big as it seems. Ask the right questions, get free stuff, and stay consistent.
For sure. Y'all hear it. If you have questions and you're just starting out and you just want to talk to somebody for 15 minutes, hit her up. She gave the Instagram, so make sure you contact her. But thank you so much for coming on again. I'm already looking forward to the next one. And everyone, thank you so much for taking another opportunity to listen to the Black Real Estate Dialogue podcast. I look forward to hearing from you all soon.